From Magnum P.I. to Blue Bloods and more, actor Tom Selleck has ascended to heights he never imagined. Now he's taking in the view with our Tracy Smith.
Long before Magnum P.I. or the Big Lebowski, Tom Selleck and Sam Elliott were just two hungry young actors trying to make it through a single TV episode. They met on a forgotten Western called Lancer, two unknowns who would later define the genre itself. But behind the scenes of that dusty set, something quietly clicked. Over the years, their careers took wildly different paths, yet the bond they formed never really disappeared. Now, at 80, Selleck has broken his silence about what Sam Elliott truly meant to him, and what he reveals might surprise even longtime fans of Hollywood's favorite cowboys. The real story before the fame. Tom Selleck may have been born in Detroit back in 1945, but make no mistake, he's a true Los Angeles native through and through. When he was just 3 years old, the Selleck family packed up and settled in the Sherman Oaks area, where Tom grew up alongside his two younger siblings. His mom, Martha Selleck, was the heart of the family, a devoted, hands-on mother who also gave back to the Hollywood community. She served as president of the Motion Picture Mothers Organization from 1998 all the way until 2016, helping support the Motion Picture and Television Fund. His father, Robert Selleck, was just as accomplished in his own right. A real estate developer with a sharp business sense, he later became a director on the Los Angeles Olympic Organization Committee. That entrepreneurial spirit ran deep in the family. Robert and Tom's brother Daniel eventually started their own real estate company, shaping retail spaces across Los Angeles. And yes, Tom himself jumped in, investing and helping out with some of their projects. The Sellecks weren't just residents of Los Angeles, they were builders of it. Now, you might assume growing up in the heart of Hollywood would push Tom toward acting early on, but that wasn't the case. Standing 6'4", he was far more focused on the court than the camera. Basketball was his first passion, and he had his eyes locked on one goal: playing for the University of Southern California. In fact, he turned down a full scholarship from Montana State just for the chance to attend USC. After 2 years at Los Angeles Valley College, juggling classes and saving money while living at home, his persistence paid off. He transferred to USC as a junior and earned his spot on the USC Trojans basketball team. At his height, he was one of the biggest players on the roster, which meant he faced some serious competition. Most famously, going head-to-head with UCLA's 7'2" powerhouse, Lou Alcindor, who the world now knows as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Truthfully, Tom wasn't a standout player on that squad. He was ranked 12th on a 12-man team and only played 7 games during the 1965 to 1966 season. But what he lacked in stats, he made up for in toughness. That athletic drive would come back full circle years later when he starred in the film Mr. Baseball. To prepare for that role, he trained with the Detroit Tigers, went through an intense baseball boot camp, and even played in a spring training game. He later admitted that baseball had always been his first love, and that as a kid, his real dream was to become a pro ball player. But as fate would have it, acting came calling. During his senior year, Tom made a bold decision. He left USC and began studying at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, diving headfirst into a brand new world. By 1965, he was landing small movie parts and commercials, slowly finding his footing in front of the camera. And then came one of his more surprising early gigs, The Dating Game. Not once, but twice, in 1965 and 1967. The show was a pop culture hit at the time, with a bachelorette questioning 3 hidden contestants before picking one for a date. It was a launchpad for many young hopefuls, including Steve Martin, Andy Kaufman, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Tom later laughed about the experience admitting that he only went on because all his fraternity buddies were doing it. He described himself as a shy USC student who didn't dominate on the show, and unfortunately, he lost both times. To make things worse, he later found out his friends had gone on the show with their own girlfriends, pretending not to know them. Tom didn't play that game, and it showed. Still, that easy charm and striking look caught people's attention. By 1967, he was appearing in commercials, most memorably one for Pepsi, where he showed off his basketball skills. At the same time, he was juggling a part-time job with United Airlines while pursuing a business administration degree at USC. Despite those early breaks, Tom remained refreshingly humble. He admitted in interviews that before acting, he'd never even done a single play. He was green but determined. His commercial agent saw real potential in him and encouraged him to take acting seriously. With both of his parents backing him and urging him to take risks, Tom made one of the biggest decisions of his life. He left USC behind to chase his dream of becoming an actor full-time. By this point, Tom Selleck had caught the attention of his agent, Don Schwartz. But in Hollywood, getting noticed was only half the battle. Actually breaking through was a grind. Fortunately, a bit of luck and his basketball background gave him an unexpected edge. Schwartz sent him over to 20th Century Fox, which at the time ran a new talent program designed to develop promising newcomers. The catch? Selleck still needed the approval of the studio's president, Richard Zanuck. And here's where things took a surprising turn. Zanuck happened to be a huge basketball fan, particularly of UCLA. When he heard that Selleck had played for rival USC, he was intrigued. Rivalry aside, Zanuck liked the idea of bringing a former college athlete into the fold. That one shared connection opened the door. And just like that, Selleck became part of the Fox family. Now he had a foot in the door, but not much else. He was still green, eager but unpolished. To sharpen his skills, he threw himself into acting classes at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, one of Los Angeles's most respected training grounds. Under the guidance of the legendary Milton Katsillas, Selleck learned to dig deeper into the craft. The pay wasn't much, just about $35 a week through the Fox program. But he kept at it. Every role, every class, every tiny step forward was an investment in the bigger dream. Then came another twist of fate. It was the late 1960s, and the Vietnam War draft was in full swing. Like many young men his age, Selleck found himself in the sights of the Selective Service. Around that same time, he married actress and model Jacqueline Ray and adopted her son, Kevin. Wanting some control over his service, he joined the California National Guard, serving with the 160th Infantry Regiment from 1967 to 1973, including 6 months of active duty. When his service ended, Selleck returned home ready to rebuild his life. But Hollywood wasn't waiting for him. Just months after leaving the Guard, Fox dropped him from the new talent program. After years of effort, he was suddenly back at square one. Still, he didn't quit. Through the late 60s and early 70s, Selleck could be spotted in scattered television roles. Small parts in shows like Lancer, Judd for the Defense, and The Young and the Restless. Looking back, he joked that at 25 he looked 35 and sounded 16, which made casting directors unsure what to do with him. Even so, there was something undeniable about his presence. He was regularly cast in pilots for new drama and action series, but fate kept teasing him. None of the 6 pilots he appeared in ever got picked up. One of his most important early breaks came in 1974 when he landed a role on The Young and the Restless. CBS had launched the show just a year earlier to compete with All My Children, aiming to attract a younger, more modern audience. Selleck joined the cast as Jed Andrews, a book editor who becomes entangled in a steamy affair with Lori Brooks after helping her publish a novel. His run lasted only about a year, but it gave him invaluable screen experience. and a taste of what was to come. For fans who dig into those early episodes, there's an extra treat: a clean-shaven Tom Selleck, years before the famous mustache that would later define his signature look on Magnum P.I. in hindsight. His time on The Young and the Restless may have been brief, but it marked a pivotal step on his climb from struggling newcomer to one of television's most recognizable faces. The role that changed everything. By the time Tom Selleck finally landed a TV pilot that actually got picked up, the show that would make him a household name, Magnum P.I., he was already 35 years old. When Selleck first looked at the role, he thought the character was written to be too much like James Bond, and that didn't sit right with him. He didn't want to play another smooth, perfect action hero. Instead, he pushed for a more down-to-earth version of Thomas Magnum, a guy who was capable but flawed, confident yet relatable. Selleck modeled his performance after Jim Rockford from The Rockford Files, played by James Garner. He admired how Garner brought warmth and humor to a detective role without making it feel forced. Another thing Selleck fought for was giving Magnum a real backstory, one that grounded the character. Making him a former Navy SEAL added depth and purpose, and it became a defining part of the show's legacy. That attention to authenticity paid off in a big way. Magnum P.I. went on to become the first TV show to portray Vietnam veterans in a positive light. Selleck was deeply proud of that, later saying how meaningful it was to see Magnum's Hawaiian shirt and Detroit Tigers cap end up in the Smithsonian's collection. For Selleck, Magnum P.I. wasn't just a hit show, it was the turning point of his entire career. And interestingly, the show's tone and style shared a lot in common with The Rockford Files. In fact, Selleck might never have taken the role if it hadn't been for some advice from the man behind that very series. At first, Selleck wanted to turn the part down. To him, Thomas Magnum seemed too polished, too much like a ladies' man with no real emotional core. But that's when James Garner, his mentor and friend, stepped in with some words that changed everything. Garner told him that if the producers wanted him for the role, he'd never have more leverage than he did at that very moment, and that this was the time to shape the character into someone real. Taking that advice to heart, Selleck went back to the producers and pushed for changes that would make Magnum more human. Someone with doubts, humor, and heart. That move defined the show. With its blend of mystery, charm, and tropical scenery, Magnum P.I. became a cultural phenomenon, running for 8 seasons and turning Tom Selleck into one of television's biggest stars. But behind all the success, Selleck's personal life was going through turbulence. His marriage to actress Jacqueline Ray had already been strained, and things only got harder when filming took him to Hawaii. While Tom made it clear later that the distance wasn't what caused the split, the separation did take its toll. Interestingly, Ray even appeared in several episodes of Magnum P.I., but by 1982, the couple officially went their separate ways. Selleck has rarely opened up about the breakup, though he once admitted that the divorce was one of the hardest experiences of his life. During a screening for one of his Jesse Stone films years later, he reportedly grew emotional watching a scene about divorce, confessing that he thought he'd be married forever. When Magnum P.I. made him a superstar, rumors swirled that his fame had played a role in ending his marriage. Some claimed that success changed him, suggesting he'd been unfaithful while living in Hawaii. According to one insider, Jacqueline Ray was heartbroken seeing how fame seemed to reshape their marriage. However, Selleck himself firmly denied those rumors. He told People magazine that the stories of him abandoning his wife after becoming famous were false. He explained that he and Ray had already been separated for months before Magnum P.I. even started filming in 1980. Despite everything, Selleck and Ray managed to remain close after their divorce. They didn't rush into legal proceedings right away and continued to co-parent Kevin, Ray's son from a previous marriage, whom Selleck had adopted. He always spoke lovingly of Kevin, calling him his only child. About a year after the split, Tom Selleck found love again, this time in the most unexpected place. In 1983, while filming Lassiter in London, he caught a performance of the hit musical Cats. On stage was a young British actress named Gilly Joan Mack, and she completely stole his attention. According to People magazine, Tom was so taken by her that he kept going back to the show, night after night, until he finally worked up the nerve to ask her out to dinner. Even his Lassiter co-star, Jane Seymour, couldn't help but notice. She later joked that Tom just couldn't stop talking about Cats. He'd seen it so many times, she thought he must have been more interested in the performer than the show. And she was absolutely right. A few years later, in 1987, Tom and Gilly tied the knot in a small secret ceremony in Nevada. Their friends and family were stunned when they found out afterward. Their officiant, Reverend David Immel, remembered the day vividly. He said the couple was just as nervous and excited as any other pair about to say their vows. Despite Tom's fame, what stood out most was how genuine he was. He wanted the ceremony to feel deeply meaningful for Gilly. But life in the spotlight came with its share of rumors. Toward the late 80s, tabloids began stirring up gossip, hinting at an affair between Tom and his famous neighbor, the legendary Italian actress Sophia Loren. At the time, Tom and Gilly were living on their beautiful avocado ranch in California. And yes, Sophia happened to live right next door. Tom, always one to keep things light, turned the whole thing into a running joke. He once told the Telegraph that Gilly had given him a very specific hall pass. If Sophia ever happened to be standing in her driveway, wearing a bathrobe, and asked him, "Tommaso, would you like a cappuccino?" Only then could he accept. But as Tom later laughed, that moment never came, and Sophia eventually moved away. Behind the jokes, though, was a couple with a solid bond. Tom has always made it clear that family comes first. He and Gilly built their marriage on teamwork and mutual respect. He once said that they never make major decisions without consulting each other. And when it comes to their daughter, Hannah, they always present a united front. Even if one parent disagrees, they support the other's call completely. Still, Tom has always been fiercely protective of his private life. He's admitted that sharing too much with the public just doesn't feel right to him. That's why, from the very beginning, he and Gilly guarded their privacy carefully, even on their wedding day. According to Hello magazine, they used only Polaroid cameras, so no professional photos could leak to the press. Through the fame, the jokes, and the endless rumors, Tom Selleck and Gilly Mack have quietly kept their love strong for decades. Their story isn't built on Hollywood flash, it's built on humor, trust, and a shared commitment to keeping what matters most just between them. The rumor that almost tarnished his image. Tom Selleck had always carried himself as a devoted family man, a Hollywood icon known for his steady charm and integrity. But back in 1999, his reputation took a sudden hit when the tabloid Globe decided to spread a wild rumor claiming he was gay. Selleck didn't shy away from addressing it, making it clear that the story just wasn't true. The whole controversy began when a group of gay activists known as the Outpost launched a poster campaign across New York City. These posters featured photos of well-known figures, actors, writers, athletes, and boldly suggested they were gay. Among them was Selleck's face. Before long, the Globe picked up the story, printing 16 of those posters in an article titled "Gay Stars Stop Traffic." For Selleck, that was the breaking point. His lawyer revealed that the actor had already been clashing with the Globe over previous stories, and with a circulation of more than 1.2 million readers, this new claim felt like a direct attack. Determined to defend himself, Selleck, who described himself as singularly hetero, filed a $20 million lawsuit against the tabloid's parent company, Globe International Inc., in Los Angeles Superior Court. His legal team accused the publication of libel and invasion of privacy, demanding a full retraction and a public correction. But the Globe refused. The lawsuit detailed the emotional toll the story caused: shame, embarrassment, humiliation, and damage to his peace of mind. Still, the tabloid's editor, Wendy Henry, declined to comment, leaving the company's attorney, Paul Levy, to respond. Levy stood firm, insisting the article was fair and accurate, and that it covered a newsworthy event. Selleck's side argued the article was meant to harm his reputation, career, and family. He knew the fight would be costly, but he was determined to clear his name and, as he put it, take a stand on behalf of those who could not. Eventually, both sides reached a settlement. The Globe agreed to publish a public apology and clarification, stating they never intended to imply that Selleck, whether or not any money changed hands in the settlement, was never revealed. Why Tom Selleck walked away from fame. The massive overnight success of Magnum P.I. back in the 1980s, combined with Tom Selleck's rugged good looks, turned him into one of Hollywood's most sought-after leading men. But that stardom didn't come easy. Before he became a household name, Selleck paid his dues, starring in TV pilots that fizzled, taking small movie roles, and making brief appearances in all kinds of television dramas. Then came the audition that could have changed everything. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were preparing their next big adventure film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they wanted Tom Selleck to play Indiana Jones. He filmed a screen test and completely nailed it. Spielberg and Lucas were convinced he was their guy. Selleck later recalled how they told him directly, "You got the part." But just when it looked like his career was about to explode, fate had other plans. Selleck had already shot a pilot for CBS, and when he told the network about the film offer, they shut it down immediately. He couldn't do both. It was a crushing blow. What made it worse was the irony that followed. Not long after, a writer's strike delayed the start of Magnum P.I., the very show CBS wouldn't let him abandon. With production on hold, Selleck had to pick up labor work just to pay the bills. And to top it all off, Raiders began filming right around that same time, in Hawaii, just miles from where Selleck was stuck waiting. Years later, Raiders co-star Karen Allen recalled meeting him and learning just how much that missed opportunity had hurt. Selleck had been heartbroken. Still, Tom Selleck wasn't one to dwell on regret. He pressed forward, and soon after, he landed one of the biggest box office hits of the decade, 3 Men and a Baby, the 1987 comedy. Co-starring Steve Guttenberg and Ted Danson, became the highest-grossing film of the year. The story of 3 carefree bachelors suddenly forced into fatherhood struck a chord with audiences everywhere. But the movie also sparked one of Hollywood's strangest rumors, the so-called Ghost Boy. In one scene, behind a sheer curtain, a mysterious dark-haired figure appears to be standing in the background. Word spread that it was the spirit of a boy who had died in the house where they filmed. The truth, however, was far less creepy. Selleck eventually went on The Tonight Show to debunk it, reminding everyone that the movie wasn't even shot in a real house. It was filmed on a soundstage, and that mysterious figure, it wasn't a ghost at all. It was a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson in a top hat, used as a prop in the movie. The rumor exploded once the film hit VHS, when people could pause and rewind the scene, and Selleck even joked that the ghost story might have helped boost sales. He laughed that Disney probably didn't mind the attention one bit. For all the fame and success that Magnum P.I. brought him, Selleck ultimately made the surprising choice to walk away. After 8 seasons, he ended the show in 1988, not because he was tired of playing Thomas Magnum, but because he was simply tired from the grind. He told People magazine he wanted a fuller life, one that didn't revolve entirely around work. "I wanted a 3-dimensional life because I didn't have one," he said, a deeply private person. Selleck has always made it clear that family means more to him than fame. He's often spoken about his preference for quiet, grounded living on his 65-acre California ranch, far removed from Hollywood's noise. As he once put it, acting is abstract. You do a scene, it's captured on film, and people debate whether it's good or not. But when you plant an oak tree and watch it grow, that's something real. That's what keeps him balanced. After leaving Magnum, Selleck didn't fade away. He transitioned into film with roles in Her Alibi and Quigley Down Under. At one point, he was even considered for the lead in Baywatch before the role went to David Hasselhoff. Then, in 1996, he made a grand return to television with a recurring role on the hottest show of the time, Friends. Playing Dr. Richard Burke, the charming older man who falls for Monica Geller, Selleck instantly became one of the show's most memorable guest stars. Initially, he wasn't sure about taking the part. Some industry voices told him not to do it, that returning to TV might look like a step backward. But Selleck trusted his instincts. He already had great chemistry with Courtney Cox from a previous screen test years earlier, and he believed it would work. He was right. His 3-episode arc quickly expanded to 10, and the storyline became one of Friends' most beloved. It even landed Selleck and Cox on the cover of TV Guide, cementing his reputation as a timeless TV icon. Tom Selleck's thirsty secret exposed. In 2013, legendary actor Tom Selleck found himself caught up in a real-life drama that had nothing to do with Hollywood scripts. California was in the grip of a brutal drought, and Selleck, along with his wife Jilly, whom he's been married to since 1987, was suddenly accused of something wild: stealing water. The story started when reports surfaced that a private water truck, allegedly working for Selleck, had been spotted taking water from a public fire hydrant in Thousand Oaks. Not once or twice, but up to 8 times in a single week. That water was said to be hauled to Selleck's sprawling Hidden Valley Ranch, home to his 65-acre avocado farm. The Caleguas Municipal Water District wasn't about to let that slide. They sent a cease and desist letter, but when that didn't stop the activity, things escalated fast. In July 2015, the Water District officially filed a civil lawsuit against Selleck. To build their case, they even hired a private investigator to track the water truck's movements. Now, the drought had been raging since 2012 and would continue until 2016, putting massive pressure on farmers and residents alike. So, the idea of a celebrity using hydrant water while everyone else was conserving sparked public outrage. Interestingly, water officials later revealed that the company hired by Selleck had actually paid for the water, but they broke the rules by transporting it out of the district. While the company escaped any legal action, Selleck had to face the music. He avoided criminal charges, but to put the civil case to rest, he agreed to pay a settlement. That same month, in July 2015, Selleck paid $21,685.55 to the Caleguas Municipal Water District. He never made any public statement about it, and the board quickly accepted the payment, closing the case. For a man worth about $45 million and earning roughly $200,000 per episode for his hit series Blue Bloods, that fine was little more than pocket change. Still, it was a strange chapter for an actor best known for playing calm, honorable heroes on screen. As for how he kept his avocado farm alive afterward, no one really knows. But one thing's clear: his crops didn't seem to suffer. A few years later, in 2016, Selleck took on a very different kind of role: the national spokesman for American Advisors Group, or AAG. The company marketed itself as a trusted name helping older Americans secure their retirement through reverse mortgages. Selleck's calm, fatherly presence made him the perfect face for their message about financial freedom and comfort in later life. But the story didn't stay spotless. In 2021, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau accused AAG of false advertising, claiming the company made deceptive statements and exaggerated benefits in its marketing. Acting CFPB Director David Huegio publicly stated that AAG had violated consumers' trust, The company was ordered to pay $173,400 in consumer redress and a $1.1 million civil penalty. Despite the controversy, not everyone saw Selleck's ads as misleading. Some retirement and financial blogs, like New Retirement, examined his commercials and concluded that while some claims were a bit stretched, they were mostly truthful. At 80, Tom Selleck reveals his true feelings about Sam Elliott. In Hollywood, certain celebrity duos just seem inseparable, like they come as a set. Think Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller, or that golden pair, Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. They've shared the screen so many times, it's hard to remember where one performance ends and another begins. And of course, there's Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, the undisputed king and queen of rom-coms. Let's be real, You've Got Mail and Sleepless in Seattle are basically the same story told with different zip codes, and fans still can't get enough. But then there's a different kind of duo, Tom Selleck and Sam Elliott. Their connection wasn't built on cute love stories or high-energy comedies, but on grit, dust, and the open plains of the Western frontier. Selleck had the rare experience of watching his friend Elliot carve out a path that seemed tailor-made for him. While Selleck was still experimenting and finding his footing, Sam looked like he'd already found home, right there in the saddle. Like many great partnerships, theirs started quietly. Nothing flashy, no headlines, just a moment that would eventually shape both their careers. It all began in 1969 on the set of the Western TV series Lancer. The show was in its first season, and episode 14, titled Deathbait, featured two minor characters, Dobie and Renslow, played by two unknown fresh-faced actors, Tom Selleck and Sam Elliott. When Selleck auditioned, he ran into a make-or-break question. For a Western, there's one thing casting directors always want to know. Can you ride a horse? The truth was, Tom couldn't. He wasn't a cowboy yet, and lying wasn't his style. So when director Bob Totten asked, Tom owned up to it. He admitted he couldn't ride, but assured Totten he wasn't afraid of horses. And with his athletic background, he'd learn fast if given the chance. The auditions were held at the historic Randall Ranch, where each finalist was told to mount a horse and ride toward the grandstand. Despite his lack of experience, Tom held his own and managed to impress. Just like that, he landed the role, and unknowingly, the first spark of a long-running friendship. When the episode aired, Selleck looked almost unrecognizable without his signature mustache. Elliot's role was even smaller, appearing briefly later in the episode. The plot was simple. Tom's character loses his horse, but the significance was far greater. It marked the first time these two future icons shared the screen. Over the years, Tom Selleck's career stretched across genres, from action to drama to his long-running police series Blue Bloods. But there was a period when Westerns defined him. During that time, he often looked to Sam Elliott as someone who had it all figured out. Elliott seemed grounded, focused, and perfectly aligned with his calling. Selleck later reflected that at just 24, he was still learning the ropes, while Elliott, a year older, already had a clear sense of who he was and where he was going. From the very start, Tom noticed it. Sam Elliott wasn't just acting in Westerns. He was one.